Okay, so we are building a new PC here. The parts have been assembled over the past 12 months, basically. Buying different parts every month, waiting until the end for the processor, which is obviously the most recent part of the collection. I've looked at reviews and followed prices of all the different parts over a number of months. I've waited for the prices to be at their best before I buy them, and I've looked for compatibility, obviously, and based on what I've used before and based on what I expect from a very good quality PC. We're using the Pcle North XL case, which is very large, but as you'll see, in some cases it's not large enough. Here we have the NZXT C1000 power supply, which gives a very good quality power to the system. The system uses about 635 watts overall, and this supplies the power adequately for it. Here we're attaching it to the case via the back once all the cables have been pre-installed, and it's always a good idea to pre-install the cables because it's quite tricky to get to them afterwards. Here we're installing the Arctic 3 liquid cooler. It's not the RGB version. I don't really want RGB in this case. Based on past experience, having a lot of RGB in a case with a glass side is quite distracting for me. I don't really like it because I have my PC up almost desk level on the side, and my previous PC had too much RGB and it was a bit of a pain. Here we see an issue with the case. I'm fitting the radiator and the radiator fans to the front of the case because I wanted to install some very large exhaust fans to the top of the case. But the North XL case has a tab on the bottom there indicated by the tip of the screwdriver, and that tab prevents the fans of the radiator from fitting correctly. The radiator was tricky enough to get in. You can't install the top fans first, and you can't install all the fans on the radiator first. To install the radiator correctly, you have to take off the bottom two fans, fit the radiator, slip in the bottom fan, and then slip in the middle fan above that. So it's a real tricky situation to get done right. But we had to cut the tab off the case for the bottom fan to fit. I'm not sure how North planned this, but this is a 420 radiator, and even a 360 radiator I'm sure wouldn't fit there as well properly. So that tab had to come off. And as you see in the top, once the 420 radiator is sitting in the front, then I can't fit two 180 fans at the top. I wanted to have a twin set of 180 fans at the top because this case can fit them, but it can't fit them when there's a radiator in the front. What I've done here is install one 180 fan at the top and another 120 fan behind it. Even though it looks a bit odd, it actually does work fine. Here we're setting up the motherboard, taking off all the peeling wraps that are all over the place. You really have to look for it because you'll find it on all sorts of odd spots. There's the motherboard backing plate, which what we'll do, we'll just take off the backing plate attachment on the motherboard, and we'll add the cooler attachment plate, which allows the cooler to sit better onto the motherboard. There was an issue here again. The Arctic 3 cooler interferes with the top heatsink of the M.2 drive on the motherboard, so we had to adapt and adjust the top heatsink to fit. Here I'm installing the Ryzen 9000 series CPU. This literally arrived last week, and I managed to get it at quite a good price, so I'm pretty happy with that. I got it a tiny bit below the manufacturer recommended retail price, and right now it's sitting at about €100 over everywhere, so I'm quite happy with the price that I paid for it. It meant just sitting and watching Amazon whilst as the CPU was released. Here we're installing the CPU, being very careful not to touch any of the pins and to install it in the right way around. Plastic plate pops off when you attach the spring load clamp. Here we're installing the M.2 drives. I'm installing two in this box for the moment, a 1TB drive for my operating system and a 2TB drive for the basic files and storage. I'll add a second 2TB drive to the machine in a month or two's time, but for now this is alright for me. There's the spot where the third M.2 drive will go eventually. I can actually access it quite easily with the GPU in place, so that's fine. The fourth and fifth M.2 drive are accessible under a plate at the back and it's a bit tricky to get to them. You have to take off the GPU, I think, to get there. So I'll skip that for now. Here I'm looking at the memory and installing the memory. I'm putting in 64 gigabytes of memory using 2 DDR5 memory banks. The memory is 6000 megahertz per second. It's very fast memory. But to get the memory to work at that speed, you have to update the BIOS. The BIOS that comes with the motherboard as is won't run the memory at 6000 megahertz. It will only run it at 4000 something around there. So you have to update the BIOS, and updating the BIOS is a little bit tricky. It's not very straightforward, but it can be done. I use the flash method with the PC powered off but plugged into the power supply. That's not too bad. It works quite well. Once the BIOS was updated to the latest version, I could then update the memory to 6000 megahertz, and that worked fine. Here I'm putting on the thermal paste and rubbing it on over. There's quite a lot there, but a lot of it comes off on the plastic on your finger, so it doesn't squeeze out when the cooler goes on. Cooler is now in place. It's plugged in. I've plugged it in with a single connector cable, and I've plugged the cooler into the I/O fan on the motherboard, so it runs at a constant speed, which is fine. Whilst I'm using the PC, it's running at a constant speed. Whilst I'm not using the PC sleeps and the fans all turn off. Here I'm installing a 4080 Super GPU. I bought this at the end of last year as an upgrade to my old GPU, and it works fine. I haven't bought a 5080 yet, basically because the 4080 Super is very similar to the 5080, but I'm not going to be spending a ridiculous amount of money just to get a few percent increase to the GPU. So the 4080 will work fine for now, and I'll upgrade that in a year or two's time. So the PC went together pretty well at the end. Power on, everything worked, all the fans turned. The fans at the top and at the back extract the heat very well, and the radiator on the front keeps the CPU very cool. Idle temperatures are in the mid-20s degrees centigrade, and normal use temperatures are in the 40 degrees centigrade. And when I'm doing some hectic full core rendering using a 3D software similar to Blender, where all the cores are being used on the CPU, then temperatures are around 70 degrees centigrade. I've not seen higher temperatures than 75, so basically I'm very happy with the temperature of the case. Okay, so overall I'm very happy with the parts for this PC. It really works well. I struggled a little bit with the BIOS initially. I thought that the RAM would work out of the box at 6000 megahertz. It didn't, and I had to flash the BIOS a couple of times. I'd set the RAM at 6000 and then it just didn't load, so I had to flash the BIOS a couple of times for that. It was a bit of a pain. Then I realized that I had to upgrade the BIOS to the latest version, which I did, and then I had to I set the RAM at 6000 and it worked fine after that. I'm very happy with the CPU. The CPU is very, very, very fast. And the 16 cores, 32 threads is perfect for what I use. I do a lot of 3D modeling, and I have to do renders on the 3D models to present the models. And rendering is 12 times faster than my previous PC, so I'm incredibly happy with that. I recommend all these parts. They are all very good quality and are really good for this high-end PC. I provide links down below to Amazon France. This is because I live there. But you can easily find the products on other Amazons or other sources. Thanks a lot for watching. Ciao.